Throughout the winter months of 1997 and 1998, California was pounded by merciless rains, rains that did much more than inconvenience people and make roadways dangerous. The relentless storms attributed to El Nino caused more than $350 million in damage to the state's agricultural industry. From north to south, crops that make California the nation's largest agricultural producer were damaged or destroyed. Vineyards, orchards, fields of grain and strawberry fields surrendered to the rain, disappearing under muddy inland seas. While farmers lost millions in revenues, thousands of California farm workers lost jobs, jobs that account for most of their annual income, usually well below the state's poverty level. At the same time, cities and counties suffered as repeated storms pelted the state. Local communities faced millions of dollars in repair and cleanup costs. With dozens of counties being declared federal disaster areas, unique partnerships to rebuild and renew the state's devastated regions were born. The Department of Labor sent more than $35 million in federal disaster funds to the state. The California Employment Development Department contracted with La Cooperativa Campesina de California to provide farm workers displaced from agricultural employment with decent-paying temporary jobs and communities with labor resources to rebound from the storm damage. It has been an innovative and long-time partnership, according to La Cooperativa Executive Director Raul Mireles.
1990 was the first time we got involved in disaster relief. There was a devastating freeze in the state of California that affected primarily the San Joaquin Valley. As a result of that freeze, there was a large displacement of workers, aside from big destruction of the crops in the valley and other places. Traditionally, the federal government has allocated funds to basically compensate the industry for the losses. It's probably the most rewarding programs we have ran in the last 30 years that I've been involved in this business. Simply because it's not only a benefit to the family, which is today, the average wages of a worker is around $8.89 an hour, which is by far exceeded what they will normally make. But it's very rewarding to go out into those communities and see the restoration that has taken place, the goodwill of local government and others as a result of the work and the ethics that this community had, that we had known they had, but others had never been exposed to it. So in that sense, it has been a great experience.
Lake County was particularly hard hit in February of 1998 when Clear Lake reached its highest level in 89 years. Floodwaters invaded at least 500 homes and threatened 700 more. The county's major source of revenue, tourism and agriculture, were dealt a double blow. Recreational grounds surrounding the lake were completely submerged. Pear orchards and vineyards, prime for pruning, stood in furrows of deep water. The California Human Development Corporation spearheaded the project in Northern California. There was raking, shoveling, moving, cleaning, repairing. The county was grateful for the many able hands that began restoration of the popular recreation area, and farm workers were grateful for the employment opportunity. According to Marco Lizarraga, coordinator for the statewide project, the benefits were bounteous.
Over 250 farm workers went from temporary jobs that were to last only 6 months to permanent unsubsidized jobs as they were employed by the agencies that were working for temporarily. Agencies that hired these people even held events, special events, to honor some of these workers because they were so pleased with their work, and they were very appreciative of the fact that they were able to obtain through this program the labor force to assist them in the restoration of the damage caused by the floods. A lot of the people, which were at least 50% women, were very appreciative of having these jobs because they had the opportunity to earn in 6 months what they would normally earn in a year or 2 years sometimes.
Further south in Yellow County, rivers raged and creeks flooded their banks. The water carved a new path along riverbeds and scattered debris in its wake. Fields waiting for planting with tomatoes were too waterlogged to work. Crops of wheat, barley, corn, and sugar beets were damaged or destroyed. Entire towns in Yolo County had been cut off because of floodwaters, despite the extraordinary efforts of residents and volunteers who surrounded one side of Knight's Landing with a sandbag wall to forestall the swelling waters of Catch Creek. Later, crews of farm workers went to work with picks, shovels, chainsaws, and determination. In Merced County, where the Central Valley Opportunity Center managed the project, there was a special mission: to clean up one of America's natural treasures, Yosemite National Park. Because major roadways were flooded, workers had to reach the sites by bus, a nearly 3-hour daily ride up the mountain. The park was evacuated as roads and bridges collapsed, destroying hiking trails and popular campsites. Working with the National Park Service and Caltrans, flood project participants faced the devastation and the expectation that people from around the world would soon arrive to enjoy the magnificence that is Yosemite. And they were not disappointed. Highways reopened and local economies rebounded. Each farm worker enrolled in the program had to meet certain requirements, such as being a legal resident farm worker displaced from work by the floods. Eligible participants were able to earn $12,000 within a 6-month period. Since the average annual wage for a farm worker in California is about $8,500, employment in the flood project often netted more than a whole year in the fields. In Sacramento County, flood crews placed by the Center for Employment Training travel the length of the American River Parkway, braving rattlesnakes and poison oak to restore the popular recreation area. With hand tools and willpower, they work their way up 22 miles of riverbank and around the vast perimeter of Folsom Lake. At the same time, they forge new friendships and build bridges of understanding. Ray Rodriguez with the State Park Service admits the damage was daunting.
Well, in reality, we would have a real hard time trying to get this all taken care of. The reason is most of the people that are employed with us at any given time, we have jobs that we have to do aside from this. This is like extra on top and above what we normally do. We don't have the manpower for it. We have some limited equipment and some limited time, but we also have to take care of the park for the public on a normal basis, and then this would be quite a bit for us to do. We've been real grateful to get these crews and to help us out quite a bit. If it wasn't for these crews, we would have a real hard time taking care of this. They have been excellent workers. They are very dedicated to doing the work that they're instructed to do. They're very reliable. They show up on the job on time, and they definitely work all day long, and so they've really earned their money.
Born out of crisis, the flood project has produced many unanticipated benefits for Californians, from Oxnard, where the storm shut down major highways and devastated miles of scenic beaches, to Modesto in the Central Valley and north to Lake County. It's been a prime example of successful public-private collaboration, according to Bob Garcia, EDD's Deputy Director of Operations.
It's a project that required a lot of cooperation. There was cooperation between EDD, the Department of Labor, La Cooperativa, cities and counties. So there were a lot of agencies involved in really heavy collaboration. The funding was spent to repair public properties, and in the case of this particular project, resulted in some recreational areas being open to the public by the summer season, when they had been devastated by floods during the fall and winter. It was a very important project, and again, I think the key in the whole project was the cooperation among the agencies involved. If the funding had not been made available, many of the cities and counties would not have been able to make the repairs, so they were very appreciative of the labor force that was provided by La Cooperativa. I think it's really important, too, that La Cooperativa did an excellent job in administering the project and keeping the cost very low. 90% of the funds that were appropriated were used to pay wages for people that performed the work. So it really was an excellent job on the administrative side. EDD did their part in applying for the funds. Literally, the day the disaster was declared, EDD applied for the funding. Within a matter of days, then, the funding was made available, and people were actually on the job making the repairs and getting things fixed up and cleaned up. Overall, this was a very successful project for local governments, for farm workers, and I think for the general public who benefited overall from the expenditure of the funds.
By the summer of '98, fields had again been planted and families were enjoying the wonderful recreational resources along California waterways and parks. They are perhaps unaware that only months before, men and women who bring food to California's worldwide market had been hard at work to repair these public lands. La Cooperativa and its members, California Human Development Corporation, the Center for Employment Training, ETR, Central Valley Opportunity Center, Proteus, and EDD are proud to have played a pivotal role in the restoration of California's beauty and her bounty.